Rolling with the triple C, I'ma make him bend the knee. Rolling with the triple C, don't really count the heat.
So what do we got here? Looks like it's back to work. Dustin Poirier. Title shot, full violence. You know, a few days ago, Dustin Poirier announced, and he tagged Ali, he tagged Islam, he tagged Dana White, and he tagged all of them, saying that, hey, I'm ready to rock and roll. This is what it is. I mean, guys, this fight is going to happen. Now, will this fight potentially happen in Saudi Arabia? I mean, because this is I picture that this is more likely what the king of Saudi Arabia really wanted, right? The reason why they canceled it the first time is because they knew that it was just the card wasn't stacked enough. You guys have to put in mind too, the king of Saudi Arabia, he has brought out Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou. He's brought out, I mean, he has brought everybody and their mama out to an event, from Conor McGregor to Manny Pacquiao to Shane Mosley to like the biggest sports star, just to make an appearance, to get paid to watch two fighters and two boxers go at it. I mean, if I had to say which fight that I think that could potentially be taken to Saudi Arabia, it would have to be the Islam fight. But if it's not there against Dustin Poirier, then more than likely that fight's going to take place in Vegas. It's going to take place for International Fight Week. And just imagine, Dustin Poirier ends up getting the victory over a guy like Islam Makhachev. I mean, he'd put himself in the picture of maybe even being pound for pound. You know, has that ever happened before? The pound for pound guy gets knocked out and the other guy pretty much takes his place. I mean, I could see something like that potentially happening. But stylistically, Poirier does have hands. Poirier does have grit. But stylistically, guys, you can be a fan favorite. You could be a fan favorite, but doesn't mean stylistically that it makes sense for him. I mean, will this be, Dustin Poirier has already talked about retirement quite a bit. He's like, hey, I don't have that many fights left, and I get it. I think all us fighters, once we start going past the age of 35, you really start to kind of plan. Like, nobody wants to get to 40s and keep fighting. Or maybe you do. Those are the special ones. Those are the Cormiers and Randy Couture's, the Glover Teixeiras of this world. I mean, I think there should be a cap. And I think sometimes also having a cap puts you in a position where you're going to have to make the right decisions, because that next fight may be your last. That next fight might be your swan song. Stylistically, Dustin Poirier fighting a guy like Islam, who is very good defensively with his hands. If you ever notice, like Islam, he's always here. Like, he keeps his hands really close to his damn head. His wrestling, if you over fight or you over pressure a guy like Islam Makhachev, boom, you got level change coming. And two, the fact that Dustin Poirier has fought a guy in Islam and Khabib Nurmagomedov, where he was submitted by Khabib. I mean, these guys know the playbook inside and out. So who is the winner in this fight? I think there's two winners. I think one, Islam is going to get a chance to make pay-per-view points off of a guy like Dustin Poirier. And then boom, Dustin Poirier happened to be at the right place at the right time, where I want to say he's either 3 or 4 at 155 pounds, able to skip the line because everybody is busy. You know, when is it that Justin Gaethje is going to get his title shot? When is it that the winner of Arman Tsarukyan and Charles Oliveira? I tell you what, guys, Islam Makhachev played the game right, because now he's going to fight in June, and now he gets an easier opponent. I mean, I'm not saying that a guy like Poirier isn't easy, but a style that favors Islam Makhachev very, very well. His name is Dustin Poirier. Now, the loophole for a guy like Dustin Poirier, How do you fight a guy who's super basic? How do you fight a guy whose best friend, whose brother has fought you? And then how do you make that fight a little bit different? You know, again, great fights. But at the end of the day, guys, we always have to remember that fighting, it's a competition. I mean, yeah, fans will remember the fact that you're a fat favorite, but guess what, guys? As a fighter, when I can say that I accomplished this and an Olympic gold medal, it's special. You know, my biggest thing with Dustin Poirier is, Dustin, what are you going to do different in this fight to where you don't make that mistake once again and you're able to fight a guy like Islam Makhachev completely different? I'm not saying that. What I'm trying to say is, you may want to think about adding new people to your, to your camp. What can you do to make this fight a little bit different? We're all accustomed to Poirier, the guy likes to brawl, or the guy likes to throw the hook, the right hand, the guy likes to kick. How do you fight a guy like that different? That's my question. What do you got for me, Joe?
Well, you kind of touched on it a little bit. We have to see if this fight does happen. We have to see who comes out on top between Islam and Dustin. But who is the number one contender? Because you have Justin Gaethje, you have Armin Sarukian, and Charles Oliveira. But you also have Conor McGregor and Chandler. I mean, rumored at 185, but they're 155 or so. You have the winner of that. And then the second question: who do you see holding the belt at the end of the year?
Yeah, so I think 155 pounds, because Connor had the ability to be able to create that whole drama, is the reason why 155 pounds. It's all about storytelling. I think Conor McGregor did a really, really good job. That being said, Conor McGregor gets a win over Michael Chandler, he skips everybody, including the winner of Charles Oliveira, Armin Sarukian, including Justin Gaethje versus Max Holloway. I mean, what if Max Holloway beats a guy like Justin Gaethje? What if a guy like him beats the number one, the number two contender? I mean, and it does it in a way where it's very, very decisive. But that being said, in this particular time and in this particular era that we're living in, it has shit to do with accolades. You know what it has to do with, ladies and gentlemen? It has to deal with that money. And that's one thing that Conor McGregor does bring to the table. And who knows, guys? I think the other position where a guy like Conor McGregor could really be, could with the win over Michael Chandler, he could potentially see like, hey, you know what? Let's do this. Let's do this fight for the UK. Leon Edwards, I want you, and I want you in Ireland amongst my people. Let's put on a show. And you know what Leon Edwards is going to do? He is going to accept, because it all goes back to, you know what? Mula, dinero, plata. It all goes back to rubles, dinaris, pesos, Benjamins. It's always going to go back to that, because that's the time and that's the era that we're living in. And I get it. But it's up for grabs. I mean, you would figure Dana White. How many times has Dana White gone back in his word, saying that, oh, winner of this gets the... Same thing with Hamzat. Winner of this fight with Kamaru and Hamzat's going to get the next title shot. Now we have Hamzat Chimaev fighting Robert Whittaker. Now he's fighting a fight that's not so much favored in his, according to his style, with a guy that's very, very big. But that's what it's all about. What it's all about is, who is it that's here and now and that's willing to put butts in the seat, especially when the race is that close. Especially when you got guys like Gaethje, who's well deserving. He's fought for the bout a couple times against Charles Oliveira, and he's fought for the bout against Khabib. And then you got Max Holloway, the gatekeeper at 145 pounds, who the guy could never catch the break with Volkanovski. What if he wins? What if he stops a guy like Justin Gaethje and uses all that valor and eventually gets the victory? And what about Charles the Bronx? Charles the Bronx, the guy with the most finishes in UFC history. The guy that's already cemented himself as one of the greatest Hall of Famers of all time. What about him? What about him? What about Arman Sarukian, the guy that gave Islam Makhachev the hardest and the toughest fight of his career till this day? Rather, before he ended up, before that one loss that he only has on his record against the other Brazilian Pantoja. I mean, guys, these are the things that we have to consider and talk about. But if there's one person that could go in there and just spoil everybody's party, unfortunately, I hate to say it, his name is still Conor McGregor.
So who do you see holding the belt at the end of the year? With all that being said.
Islam Makhachev. Islam Makhachev, by the time 2024 is over, going into 2025, not only do I see him holding a 155-pound bout, but I can see him holding the 170-pound strap too. So I think that's simple. He's too solid. He's too dedicated to a sport. He prides on himself of, come from that lineage of the Nurmagomedovs, and his father coached him and whatnot. I can see him winning the 170-pound title, and then I can eventually see him retire. Just like Khabib. Yeah, he won't be 29-0 or 30-0, but he'll leave with 2 straps, and he'll leave the sport of mixed martial arts and never come back as a future Hall of Famer. And this video is brought to you by the Gluten-Free Bar. Yup, that's right. I'm talking about Jimmy Bars. So you guys make sure to go to your local Walmart and get your Jimmy on. Whether you guys love citrus and bursts, cookies and creams, mint cookies and cream, guess what, guys? They have it all. So you guys make sure to get your Jimmy on. I'm out.